Have you ever really stopped to think about how insane it is that we can just fly? That you can have breakfast in New York and dinner in London? I mean, in less than a single lifetime, humanity went from being totally stuck on the ground to crossing oceans in just a few hours. This is the story of how we did it. How we went from a tiny, shaky hop on a beach to shrinking the entire planet. Let's dive in.
Just look at these numbers for a second. In 1903, the absolute pinnacle of flying was a 12-second jump across some sand, okay? Fast forward just 55 years, and we're talking about a 7-hour flight across the entire Atlantic Ocean. That leap, it's just staggering.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth did we pull that off? How did humanity make one of the most incredible technological leaps in history and do it so unbelievably fast? Well, the answer is an amazing story, and it involves some bicycle mechanics, 2 world wars, and a secret engine revolution that changed everything. Our story starts in the most unlikely of places, not in some high-tech government lab, but in a humble bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio. It was run by 2 brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, and they had a dream that was going to take them all the way to the windy beaches of North Carolina. And when they finally did it, their first real successful flight was a huge deal, of course, but it lasted just 12 seconds. That's it. You could barely hold your breath that long. It was this tiny, fragile moment that would literally change the course of history. And in those 12 seconds, their little flying machine covered just 36 meters. I mean, that's probably not even the length of your street. It was such a small step that most of the world didn't even notice. A lot of newspapers just flat out ignored it or called it a hoax. Okay, now here's a fact that will blow your mind. That entire, historic, world-changing flight covered less ground than the wingspan of a single Boeing 747 today. Just let that sink in. It shows you just how far we were about to go and how fast.
So this new invention, it was kind of flimsy, right? It needed a massive push to really get going. And boy, did it get one. That push came from the absolute pressure cooker of the First World War. Nothing accelerates technology quite like conflict.
You know, at the start of the war, airplanes were basically just scouts, cloth and wood contraptions for peeking over enemy lines. But very quickly, military need took over. They needed stronger engines, all-metal frames, and machine guns that could fire right through the propeller. By the end of the war, planes had transformed into deadly dogfighters and massive bombers that could rain destruction from miles up. Aviation had grown up, and it was terrifying. So the war is over, and now you've got this huge surplus of planes and thousands of skilled pilots with nothing much to do. What happens? Well, you get this incredible golden age of aviation. You had daredevils, barnstormers, flying captured everyone's imagination. But the next real challenge wasn't in the fairgrounds. It was that huge, empty, unforgiving stretch of water, the Atlantic Ocean.
And the person who was gonna conquer it? You'd think it'd be some famous war hero, right? Nope. It was a guy most people had never even heard of, a young pilot who flew the mail routes, and he had an incredibly bold idea.
In 1927, Charles Lindbergh got into his tiny little plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, and flew solo, non-stop, from New York all the way to Paris. For 33.5 hours, he was all alone, fighting off storms and just pure exhaustion. When he landed, he instantly became the most famous person on the planet. And more importantly, he proved that flying between continents was actually possible. The world was officially getting smaller. Lindbergh's flight was really the peak of the propeller age. But technology never, ever stands still. Another world war was brewing, and with it came another massive technological jump. Hidden away in secret labs in Germany and Britain, engineers were working on a whole new way to fly, something that would make the propeller look like ancient history. This was the jet engine. And it was a completely different beast. Forget all those complicated pistons turning a propeller. The jet engine's concept was almost brutally simple. It just sucks in a huge amount of air, squeezes it like crazy, lights it on fire, and then blasts the super hot gas out the back. The result? Immense, incredible thrust. So here's the easiest way to think about it. A propeller is like a giant fan on the front of the plane. It pulls the aircraft through the air. But a jet engine, it's all about raw power from behind. It pushes the plane forward with so much force it opened up a whole new world of speed. And believe me, this was a total game changer. When the German Me-262, the world's first jet fighter, showed up late in World War II, it was a complete shock. It was so much faster than the best Allied propeller planes that they literally could not catch it. Imagine seeing that, a plane with no propeller just blowing past you. You'd know right then and there, the future of flight had arrived.
All right, so once again, a major war is over, and this powerful, almost sci-fi jet technology is now ready to move from the battlefield to the civilian world. This was the key that was finally going to unlock global travel for pretty much everyone.
The first attempt was the British de Havilland Comet in 1952, a beautiful, sleek plane, but it had some tragic design flaws. But the real breakthrough, the one that truly kicked off the jet age, came in 1958, and it was an American icon, the Boeing 707.
The 707 was the whole package. It was big, it was incredibly reliable, and, this is key, it actually made money for the airlines. It could shoot across the Atlantic in under 7 hours, which was way faster and way smoother than a fancy ocean liner. All of a sudden, flying to Europe wasn't just for the super rich, it was something the middle class could actually aspire to do. The jet age was officially here.
So let's just take a breath and look back. That journey from a 12-second hop to the dawn of the jet age, all in 55 years, it's truly one of the most radical transformations in all of human history. And this really shows you the incredible compression of time. Crossing the Atlantic went from a 5-day ordeal on a ship, to a day-and-a-half heroic adventure with Lindbergh, to a routine 7-hour flight on a 707. The ocean didn't get any smaller, but our world absolutely did.
And here's the wildest part. This all happened in the span of one person's life. Think about that. You could have been born in a world where planes didn't exist and lived to see a time where crossing an ocean was basically just a long commute. It's mind-boggling.
So why does all this history matter? Because it's not just history. It built the foundation of our modern world. It completely changed how wars are fought. It made global business and trade possible. It invented the idea of mass tourism. It wove together the interconnected, globalized world that we all live in right now.
When you boil it all down, the legacy is simple, but it's so powerful. The airplane didn't just give us a new way to travel. It fundamentally changed our relationship with distance and time. It literally shrunk the planet. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. In just 55 years, aviation completely conquered physical distance. So the question for us, living in the 21st century is, what technology is doing that now? What's shrinking our world today?